So now we get to use the Kit Kat, the Cupcat. I'd be very happy with that. No filming, sir. Paparazzi follows me everywhere. I hate that. Any other ideas? So that's what we call a one-page comic. You know, you can put it on the wall and then you can say it's a poster comic because it's fun. Okay, so you got a cover, you got a comic page, and then you got your character sheets. Can I borrow a sheet of paper? Thanks. So, well, I think that's going to wrap it up because we try to stop about 10 minutes before for the next class. Does anybody have any questions or anything about drawing comics or art or anything? Any questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming. Take your papers with you, they're yours, and then continue drawing at home after your homework and all that. Thank you. Thanks, parents, for bringing the kids.
Oh my God.
Is this the second best day ever? You said yesterday was the best.
Yesterday was the best, most magical, best day ever.
Well, today's the second best day ever.
Yeah.
And we got the media here. Check it out, man. This is the Latina Power Roundtable. Oh, there you go. Hello there.
Because you don't want to go, hey! You don't want to go around. Let's go take a look.
Let's go get the chicken.
Yeah.
All right.
We're off to see the chicken. We're off to see. All right, fellas.
Hey guys.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Sure. Thanks for coming by, guys. Yeah. Love it.
Oh no!
You got it ready?
Grab the cheese.
This is titled Chicken.
Órale. Super chicken.
Chicken filet.
Oh, pretty good. This is Alicia from Art the Magazine.
Hi.
Over here promoting. And me, I'm John Garcia. Fucking bomb-ass artist. Cool.
You told me about last year he had a mural.
Yeah, in September. It was cool. It was for the honoring Siqueiros. Yeah, and it was like a 30-person collaboration, and they did it in one day, and it's in Culver City still, but they reproduced it and they put it in the lobby for the month of September. And it was, yeah, it was cool. It was a fun event.
And an empty table.
I'm filming the filmer.
I actually came to film Lottie eating a sandwich because this last Comic-Con he wasn't eating a sandwich like the first one.
I know.
And I thought,
You got me. There goes Michael Oshanker. Michael.
They get their nutrients.
Well, she's doing her panel right now.
Oh, let's go to the panel.
I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah, you film it.
All right, Jen.
I'll be here. Okay, I'll be here.
So there's a mix of everything. No, you're not. So there's really a mix of everything. We're a live stage production, and we've been doing it for 5 years now. And it's a la Adam West Batman. So we have a narrator on stage, and we do episodes, and in between episodes there are commercials. We had one commercial for like chamchata, which is champurrado and horchata together. So it is a very comedy sketch friendly. And then El Verde, he works at an elote factory, and he had a freak accident, so he assumes that he must have powers. Part of his arc, and then he goes through these episodes trying to figure out what his powers are exactly. In the meantime, he fights villains like La Quinceañera, Frita Kahlo, the Cucaracha King, Las Lloronas, and La Llorona Lisa. And that's really where I love supervillains, so that's my ladies are strong, look like all of us, and are just kicking his ass most of the time. And then as well, we crossed over into webcomics, so we have our, we like to print out and bookmark because we want to continue reading.
Yeah. Comic books, a bridge to literacy.
Yes. So we print out in bookmarks as well on our website in webcomic form. So we're translating now the plays into comic.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Thank you.
I guess I was a little confusing for my intro because I actually work on 2 properties. The other book I don't have here just in case somebody wants to buy the last one on the floor. That one is called Valkyrie Squadron. It's a story of a team of 4 female fighters in space in a war against robot drones. Entire swaths of human colonies are disappearing, and it's the Valkyrie's mission to find out what is happening to these people and can they be saved. So that's property number 1. Property number 2 is Fortune High, which we have here, which is a kind of a high school story, kind of like a Harry Potter subversion, which is a really short way of putting it. Basically, you've got Biscuit, he's the guy in the middle, looking absolutely terrified, and he should. And he goes to a fancy magic school. He then gets expelled for cheating and lying and being a jerk, and has to go to bad magic school in the ghetto. And things don't go so great for him in there. He is met pretty quickly with magic fireballs, and let's see, Birdmen, and what else? A couple more magic fireballs. All the magic fireballs. He does eventually make friends, and then he does eventually formulate a plan as to how he's going to get out of this really awful, awful situation by trying to weasel his way back into his old fancy school. So that's a little bit of what I do. It's meant to be funny, it's meant to be lighthearted, because too much of mainstream comics is all dark, sad, depressing. I lost my arm, I lost my leg, I lost my wife. I mean, it's like a country song, but with better artwork. I mean, it's meant to bring fun back to comics, because I like to go read comics for an escape. It's happy, and makes you feel good, and you don't have to worry about walking away from the World Series. Like, that's a little bit of what I do.
Perfect.
Hello, everybody. I'm Graciela Rodriguez. I currently have 2 books that I work on. My first book is my book. I'm very influenced by rock and roll, so my story in my book is about a girl who kind of goes through this like boyfriend situation, and they break up, and then she gets a DUI because she drinks a lot, and there's a lot of rock and roll mixed into that. I just grew up listening to rock and roll, so what I really love, what I'm finding lately is that I'm loving when I hear a song or a lyric, like I like to make a picture out of that lyric, and I just try to translate it. And right now I'm really finding that I'm enjoying that a whole lot, and hopefully I'm going to start making a lot of those so that I can put those together in some kind of a little booklet, because these are things that kind of just come into my head, and then I can't let them go. So they just stay back there while I'm doing everything else that I do. So that's like one thing. And then my other book is called Spadra, which is based on a town that happened long ago, and the town is no longer there. The only thing that's left, and this is a real town over towards the Inland Empire, the only thing that's left is the cemetery. And so what I did was I went and looked up all the people that were in the cemetery, and I made up stories about them. So, and then I just recently, last month, I had one of my character's ancestors ordered a book, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope they like it, because some of this stuff I made up, and it might not be put them in the greatest light. So I just wrote a note, hey, I hope you enjoy reading this as much as I enjoy making it, you can send me your comments, and I never heard back from her, so.
No news is good news.
So, yeah, okay, so, but I just figured that I'm going to keep doing it because I have really great ideas, and I can't, just let them go. And I guess if anybody is ever really offended, like, I could just stop making it. So, right? I just stop making it.
Just wait until you get the cease and desist letter.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you do? I mean, these are things that just, they come to me and they're in my head and I can't let them go. I have to just translate it on paper somehow. So
Perfect.
that's basically it.
Perfect.
I'm going to my daughter. And I am originally from Latina Park. I've been living in San Francisco for like 5 years now. I went to Cal. My work is a little bit all over the place in the sense that I dab into prose as well as visual art. I grew up watching a lot of like, I bless my parents' heart for like introducing me to like a lot of the classic black and white films. My dad was a big film buff. He was mostly into the classics, Charlie Chaplin, Three Stooges. He loved westerns. I could never get into them. But he had really good taste in film. And of course, Pedro Infante Cantinflas and Dan. So the thing that I really liked about that was that it was kind of all over the place in the sense that there was music and dancing and performance, storytelling and visual art encompassed in one place, but it was done so well and so polished that it was just really inspiring to me. And I dabbed in a lot with, I've always read, I was a big loner as a kid, and I always just read and drew. And it was like, coming into college was really confusing because it's like, well, do I want to study writing or do I want to study art? And it wasn't until like I was in college when I stumbled upon Love and Rockets where I was like, oh, of course. Music, performance, storytelling, visual art, all in one, done really well. It can be done. And so a lot of my stuff is, I do zines because of the same reason. Zines you can pretty much dab anything into, whatever whim you're on. A lot of my earlier zines have more of my personal stories, mostly dealing with family. And my later zines have become more closer and closer to fiction. So now I'm really big on historical fiction. I'm really big on historical horror. Guillermo del Toro is one of my heroes. As is Joss Whedon. So yeah, I like throwing in things that kind of touch upon different aspects of history and life and just present it really well.
Excellent, thank you. So on that note, I'll hit you with this first question then, because I guess, everybody knows, or people like to say that comics and stuff like that is kind of like a boys club, you go to some of the big conventions, it's guys, zombies in bikinis, or vampires in bikinis. So that's why I say when you really need that female perspective to balance that out, and you guys are definitely role models, and I'm just curious, as you guys started out, in your comic book careers and drawing and stuff like that, would you say there's something you want to say, or is there something that you guys bring as females that is a little bit different, or a little perspective that you guys want to share through your work? Would you say that something as a Latina that you really want to get out there and communicate?
I think all the characters that are Latinas in my play are naturally spunky, have attitude, don't take shit from anyone, and really when they walk in a room, they own it. And they never are ill-fitted in what they're wearing. And I think, no, their boobs are never out.
Is that code?
It's not like they're wearing these teeny tiny clad things, and they look like everyday women that are in my life. And that naturally comes out. It's not even a thing I think about. And then it's funny because when we were doing the comics, I remember having a conversation of like, oh no, you have to show their boobs, and they have to be this and that, and I was like, no. So that's also where I step in, and because I'm quite loud, in the sense of a quiet storm, I don't let those things go easily without being chained. So I think it's part of how I express my art.
Yeah. In my case, I've actually found like the big message that I want to get out is that we can all work together. We can all hang together, and everything is cool. I'm a humongous fan of Star Trek. That's part of the main reason why I'm a giant Star Trek nerd. I'm actually in the process of rewatching all of Deep Space Nine season 6. Legit. So what I love about Star Trek is that it sends out the message that everybody can work together and everybody can hang together, and you can have a dude with a transparent face hanging out with a Klingon, hanging out with a girl, hanging out with some other guy, hanging out with a Cardassian, and everybody can just get along and have a good time. That was the major point of Star Trek that I love. That's the most important message. So that's what I try to put into Valkyrie Squadron. You show all these characters who are all different races and different ethnicities and different genders, and they're just doing their thing. They have a mission. They have to stop all the evil robot spiders from killing everybody. That's an important mission. So that is a major important message. And I can show, a woman who may be wearing like a sexy red dress, or I can show a woman who's normally dressed. Really, it's important to what the occasion is. You can't just eat a box of breakfast cereal with boobs on that. Oh, I dropped my magazine, that was weird. You get a lot of that dumb stuff in comics, and I think it's because it's so deeply ingrained to some of these artists, they don't even think about what they're doing. I'm like, really? Really, dude? And it's even worse because a lot of them, they don't study female anatomy all that well. So you end up with like broke back, weird contortionist stuff.
The Liefeld method?
What was that?
The Liefeld method? Rob Liefeld?
Oh, well, he's a panel unto himself. There are a lot of guys out there who just don't know how to draw women, and I figure, I see a woman every day I look in the mirror. I grew up in a house full of women. I know how to draw women. At the very least, I can put out a bunch of comics where women are drawn well. And realistically, not with weird anti-grav anatomy, but, an anatomy the way it's supposed to. And, for the record, I also draw men realistically as well. It's not that I insist on every dude having, like, giant pectoral muscles. I mean, here we've got, our main smart guy, he's just a normal-looking dude. Our main guy, Biscuit, he's just a super twiggy guy. There's different variations that I like to explore because different people are different. Remember when I said I was a Trekkie? I appreciate variety and diversity. So that's the overall message that I like to pass out in my work.
Very well said. My message, I guess, when I speak to people, when I speak to a lot of young girls that ask me, and the main message that I like to give everybody is that you basically can do anything that you want. Some kids, some young people often say, you're all over the place. You have this, you have that, and I say to that, well, the reason why I'm all over the place is because I really truly am all over the place. If you knew me, you would know what I do. I have a lot of different stuff that I do. I'm not just a cartoonist, or I'm not just an artist, I'm not just, this or that. I wear a lot of hats. So basically, when it comes to drawing, I'm no Michelangelo. I wish I could draw as well as Michelangelo. Eventually, someday I will. I just felt that if I waited until I was that great of an artist, that my book may never come out. So I just said, I'm going to just like my book, I'm going to embrace it, and right now I'm very happy with the way my work is coming along. I hope that it gets better with time, and the thing that I do a lot is when I make mistakes, and I really like the handmade look, by the way. When I make mistakes, a lot of people I notice will take their panel and they'll redraw it until it's perfect, and they won't publish it until it looks perfect. I tried that once and it looked worse than the first drawing, so that's the reason why I stay away from that. But more so often, I find that when I make mistakes, I just leave them in my books, and I just kind of, I don't even try to hide it. I just say, oh look, I made a mistake, and so I had to do this with it, and I feel now that my mistakes are actually pretty charming. And I guess I had a conversation once with Mario. I don't know if you guys know Mario Hernandez, but he's a very famous cartoonist. And I had a conversation once in San Francisco. I was saying to him how my target audience is myself, and that my stuff is more like a vanity thing because I'm only really trying to please myself. And so to me, like, my mistakes are so like cool to me that like it's, you know, the message that I really just want to put out there is that you really can do anything you want, even if you do it wrong, because it's your blog. So, and I encourage everybody to keep doing what they're doing.
How to follow that?
I love your zines. I'm a big fan of zines, and I really love food in zines when they draw the food. I really love food. I don't know if
I like food.
I like drawing food. I have a whole Instagram on food just so someday I can make a zine out of it. Draw everything.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Let's do it. But I wouldn't be mad if you did.
Collaborate.
It's all
Cool.
good, yeah.
Message that I try to bring out. I mean, I think that question's kind of.
Or the unique perspective that you think that you are putting out there, or.
I think for me, the thing that I see a lot of is like sort of like categorizing people in terms of strong and weak in life, you know. And I'm an introvert. I socialize well, but at the end of the day, if I come across too many people, I just want to go into my room and read. And a lot of times I remember being like in my house just looked at as such an oddball, because it's like, why are you such a ranchera? Why can't you move faster? Why do you always have your head in the clouds? All of these things that were originally supposed to be like wrong with me, as an adult I realized that they were my strengths. And so I think that that's the thing that I try to bring into my work, is like, you know, the idea of what does it mean to be a strong woman or an alpha female. It's like you can take that as, in the United States, being the person who's best polished, most outspoken, and, you know, most aggressive. But sometimes when I look at other women, and even the ones who are quote-unquote passive or submissive, it's like, I think like, wow, it must take a lot of strength to tolerate all of these things, and to try and highlight those unique ways of approaching strength and getting through the day is the thing that I find most interesting. So I try to bring in, like, you know, the poetry of just like being who you are at your core and finding a way to get through the day in a way that makes you happy.
Oh, very well said. That's very well said. I told you, this is a very interesting panel up here. But that makes me start thinking as well, because like I said, we look at you guys, as you gals, as role models. You guys are obviously doing your own thing. I know, I'm assuming most of us are all here first generation, second generation, Latinos, maybe born, all of us here, maybe from immigrant parents. And I just know that growing up, seeing my cousins and my other Latina family members, I know sometimes, you know, they want you to do this or get married or study, and sometimes the arts or comics is like, ¿por qué estás haciendo eso? You know, esos dibujos, what's that? You know, study or get married and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of curious, from your perspective or your experience, was there encouragement in terms of doing your art? Was there family, cultural resistance? Did they accept you, or do they accept what you're doing now?
Let's see. I went to college for film. So that's, and not even, I went for film criticism. So that's not even like production. But one thing I never got in my house was don't do that. Like I never got from my parents, you know, go be a doctor, I never got that. But I never got encouragement either. Like they're just like, we're gonna leave you alone there. But
sometimes that's the best.
yeah, well, yeah, in a way, I guess. But my parents would always draw. My dad drew. But again, it's not something that they share. It's something that if my dad would do it, he would do it on his own and like put it away. And I'd kind of catch him. Or if I needed help with homework when I was young, he'd help me draw stuff. But it wasn't like you can do this for a living. And I've always drawn since I remember everything. But again, it was funny, when I graduated college, I did get the speech of, okay, so when are you going to get a job? Go down to Paramount, go to the gate, go ask them for a job. Like, that's how they think so it came to a point where, fine, we left you alone to do your thing, now go make money. So even now, like, I do the show, and it's still, my mom comes to everything. My dad doesn't really, because he doesn't get it. And he always asks, like, why aren't you making money out of this? So for them, it really is. It's always a financial thing, because I think as being a firstborn, I also get the responsibility of a firstborn boy. Was like, you know, my dad always goes, well, if I leave, you're gonna be in charge, and I'm like, where are you leaving to? So it's the constant speech, and I guess that says a lot of like why I am the way I am, and why I love writing characters of women that when they come in, they own a room and they can handle everything, and they don't need a man for financial, you know, that they're independent. I write these and they come out naturally, because that's kind of how I was pushed and grown in that sense. Did I like it? No, but I figured out how to balance those worlds of like kind of machismo, but not really support, but do your thing.
What about you, Jules? Were you encouraged or just
Boy, it's a sore topic for me.
Share.
Let's see. When I was growing up, I was the smart kid. I was the kid in the family who always got straight A's, to the point where my mom didn't even really ask to see my report card after like 6th grade. She just didn't even care, because she knew I was going to bring home A's. Like, didn't even become a thing. I lived on the honor roll in high school, and you know, that was met with a big meh, whatever. And I guess I'd always been drawing for a really long time. Now that I'm starting to think about it, I drew up a concept design of an X-Men costume that I wanted to make when I was like 10. So now that I think about it, it's actually a really good thing that I did. But you know, I've been drawing for a long time, and I think it was about like 16 or 17 that I started writing my own stories. I started, you know, creating my own little world, and my family was like, "Oh, that's adorable." And you know, my mom would see me drawing some of my earlier comics, which were horrible looking, but they were, hey, it's work. You know, she would see me drawing some of my earlier comics, and she was like, "Oh, that's cute. You're playing." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, Mom." So I actually made it through an entire college degree, not in art, it was in engineering. And that was because in my family, you're a woman, you work. You don't depend on no man, because all the men in my family were like, whatever, they weren't very helpful.
Latino male panel.
I'm not saying every Latin male, I'm just saying my particular family had bad taste in men, alright? That's being legit, nobody's ever gonna say otherwise. Seriously, especially if you knew, well, I seem to have escaped that somehow, my husband's great. But over time, you know, I realized, okay, well, I have to work and earn my own living. Got an engineering degree, got an engineering job, logistics job. That's where they put you when you're not really a good enough engineer to do engineering, by the way. And I stayed there for 6 years, all the while doing my comics work. And I started Valkyrie in 2010. I didn't quit my engineering job till 2012. So all the while, I'm balancing Valkyrie part-time. And, you know, as I'm putting out my work, I'd worked like 10 or 12 conventions before this one. And it really only wasn't until very recently where my mom's like, "Oh, you do comics, that's so great!" And I'm like, where were you like 5 years ago when I was killing myself at MegaCon? Where were you when I had some of my first gallery openings and like you didn't even care? I mean, like, it's a sore topic for me, because I still think my family doesn't really get it, but they're starting to appreciate that it's a thing I do. You know, so I guess the background is that it's really hard growing up in a family that doesn't really support you, and when they do start to support you, there's this kind of threat of resentment. You feel like, oh, well, you're here now, but only because I happen to be standing next to, you know, the hall of the district supervisor. Yeah, 4th district supervisor.
Your mom went there?
No, she didn't. She saw the pictures on Facebook, and she's like, "Oh, you got an award!" And like,
Yes,
I didn't get that award.
Can I just say, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors gave this expo a scroll, and she was one of the people that went up to receive it for us, and that's what she's speaking of.
They invited me out there, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, I can wear business clothes like a smart person, I can do that. So, so then she sees me now, she's like, oh, you won an award, and I'm like, that's not my award, Mom, stop saying that. What if people, you know, the people who...
Yes,
it is. It's all of our award.
It's all of our award. It's everyone's award, that's just it. I can't claim it as only mine. Everybody's award. Star Trek, right? Star Trek. Remember that. So yeah, on one hand, it's a sore spot, but there have been people in my life who have been very supportive, and I'm really grateful to them. So, you know, so that's the important thing. As long as you can surround yourself with a family that you choose that will support you, then that's probably, I mean, it's not going to completely supplement what I didn't have, but it's good. It works.
How about you?
Well, with me, in my family, art wasn't always looked as a career where you can make money. It was kind of more like a hobby, as you know, in many households. When I started college, I went to college for computer science and engineering, and well, because I'm such an artist that I am, you know, it was really difficult. I don't like numbers, I don't like math. I mean, it's the wrong profession, you know, to be in programming. If you're an artist and you're trying to program, you know, I was doing C++ and C#, and it was killing me. And then when I realized, and meanwhile I was doing art, you know, on my own, on the side. When I realized that, you know, in order for me to get my degree, I also had to pass calculus. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I barely got through statistics. Like, how, this isn't going to happen. So, it was just, I had to think really quick because I was already, like, going into my second year of college, and I was thinking really quick. And, you know, luckily for me, at the school that I went to, University of Laverne, they just started a brand new e-commerce program, which is an online business web design program. So a lot of the classes that I had already taken transferred over into that major. So I said, oh my God, I'm saved. You know, I can get out of this doing calculus and stuff, because for e-commerce, statistics was the highest math. So I switched right away. I went to my counselor, please, you know, get me in this e-commerce and blah, blah, blah. You know, I need to graduate. I can't be a loser here too, you know. So they switched me. And then,
I'm glad it toured you.
You know,
I made it all the way through differential equation.
It's really, I can do web design. You know, I don't have a problem with CSS and HTML and that kind of stuff, but the real programming is like, you have to be set for that, and I'm not hardwired up here for that. The only time I use math really is when I do design, like digital design. Other than that, you know, I balance my checkbook and pay my bills.
So your family was happy you got an e-commerce degree?
They were very happy that I got a degree, period. But I just kept doing art, and it was always something that I always did. From the time that I was small, I was drawing like my dream house. I would always draw my dream house, the same picture over and over and over, what my dream house was going to be like when I grew up. And so now it's just accepted as, oh, she does art, you know, well, she works, she goes just to work, but she also does art, and it's just a thing that I do. And I do as much art as I can because it's what makes me me, and it makes me happy. And I could be broke as heck, but if I'm at home drawing or trying to make a watercolor or a painting or getting excited about a gallery show that's coming up, whether I sell my painting or not doesn't matter. Just the fact that I'm doing the art is what just makes me tick, and I just get really, really happy. So I don't even care about programming. I'm just glad to be out of it.
I think like Latinos value hard work. Like that's what we value. We value hard work so that we can earn a living, come home, and then celebrate that the day's over with our families. And so art was never seen as something that would bring in any money. So to look at art as hard work, like I don't think my family ever looked at art as work, period. So I ended up going into school, and for the longest time I didn't identify myself as an artist. I was identifying myself more as an academic until I realized academia was sucking the life out of me. and all I wanted to do was draw pictures. It was like a big reality check. So, you know, coming into that denial and seeing that, you know, Mexicans I grew up with just didn't really see how much hard work and satisfaction came out of making art. That didn't come out until I realized I had to keep doing it for the sake of being happy and for the sake of, you know, finding myself. It kind of all comes around though, and it's funny because now it's like I see how much hard work goes into it, and it's harder than anything else I've ever done in my life, especially because it doesn't necessarily bring in any money. And you do it because you're surviving, but it's a different type of survival. It's not just to put food on the table, it's like to feed your soul or something like that. And the reason I keep going back to like Mexican films and even muralists is because I, for me, need to remember a time when, you know, art was seen as something that was vital to the survival of the culture in Mexico. And it was invested, and there was money going into it because it was valued. And that's my reminder that, oh yeah, my culture definitely loves art. They just, you know, are trying to figure out a way to survive. And sometimes the values are, you know, misplaced. And it's a big reminder for me to not misplace mine. So, you know, now like I'll draw something and I'll post it online, and I think that because I didn't see myself or accept myself as an artist as a young kid, I've had to do a lot of catching up and actually taking it seriously now versus before. And now that I'm improving, I'll post something online and then it'll be on Facebook, and relatives from Mexico will be like, oh, that's really good, you drew our hometown, that's so nice, mija, like, look, and then all of a sudden it spreads through the entire family, words get back to my mom that I made something that people liked, and then she's like, oh man, they're so proud of you, they think my mija is so talented, you know, like, it comes full circle, thanks. It's like now that all my primos and my tias and uncles are like giving me attention for it, now you're supporting it, but you know, you just have to toughen it out for a while.
Yeah, the circle of life, for sure. But see, I wasn't exaggerating. Isn't this interesting stories, that Latina perspective? That's why I'm telling you, we're not having an expo without our Latina sisters right by our side. We need this perspective. We need this point of view. Since this is kind of historical, you're not going to see this panel every day at your regular cons and stuff like that. I thought we'd open it up for questions if anybody has. These are great role models. They're do-it-yourselfers. They're independent artists. If anybody has a question or a comment, I guess this is a good opportunity to take some from the audience right now. Por favor.
I'm part of the audience.
Okay, yes, go right ahead.
Well, I'm a big fan of Stanley.
Stanley.
Yeah,
the legend.
The legend, and I wonder if you guys have any role models as far as legends.
As far as like the old school artists?
Yeah.
Oh man, well, you know, Steve Ditko does amazing work, and Jack Kirby just did some really out there stuff. And of course, Kirby dots for the crackle. You know, that's what's fun. I mean, it's really sad that he just never gets the credit that he deserves for all the work that he did. But yeah, there's some really great old school guys for sure.
And do you guys ever see your stories made into films, like as far, because that involves a lot of storytelling, I do kind of thing, and so from there, like jump into the screen. Would that be like something you will entertain in the future? Or?
You know, if I had a solid pitch to put together, then sure, because I do see kind of the business angle of using stories to, you know, pitch the studios, make some money, make sure you have a good lawyer. But, you know, I believe any story can be adapted to a lot of different things. Like the kind of work that I do is very, very visual. You know, a lot of the work that I do actually starts off as a storyboard and then gets converted into a comic. It's a new system I've been trying to work with. So yeah, I mean, I can see it somewhere down the road. I don't think it's in my immediate future, but maybe eventually.
I don't either. I don't see it in my immediate future, but I just did want to say, as far as like the big artists and stuff, of course they're great. I love, you know, Alex Ross, all that stuff, you know, and all the masters, of course, you know, me being, having an art background. But I'm a really big fan of independent comic creators, and I think that, you know, a lot of them are overlooked. And one of my favorite all-time artists is a girl named Dame Darcy, and she's an illustrator out in Savannah, and she's just so awesome. And if you guys want to look her up, she's like really cool, and that's kind of like the direction that I would like to take my stuff to, you know, to that level, because she's a great inker, and I love her.
Next question.
I don't know if you guys have had any formal art training, but what in your art training of any kind is the most important aspect?
Keep doing it.
Yeah, don't
I actually went to school. I took the animation, digital and traditional at Mount Sac, and I've also did all of their painting and their life drawings and their beginning drawings. I mean, you know, the whole 9 yards. To me, it took me a while to figure out, like when I was in beginning drawing, they teach you like the shading and stuff, the foreshadow, the cat shadow, this and that. If you look at my work, you wouldn't think that I even had an age rating at all, but actually I have. But that's just because I'm not, like I said, I'm not Michelangelo, I'm not at that level. I wish I could be, but it's never going to happen. I've accepted it, and so now drawing is important. Like if you can't draw very well, you at least should know how, you know, what the fundamentals, you know, and the principles of it, so that you can do your own thing from that. And I think that's important. Yeah, you wouldn't recognize it in my work, but I feel that's important. To some level, perspective.
Oh, I was about to say,
perspective.
If you know, probably two different things are the most important aspects. Number one, understanding perspective. I mean, it seems like a really dry, boring concept, and it kind of is, but using perspective to good effect is very, 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 okay, no, three things. Three things that are important. Perspective, that's number one. Using perspective to really good, to good effect. You know, you've got, you know, to show 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. Just using it to showcase a scenery, paint a scene. Give people a world that you want to invite them into. That's one important thing about perspective. Number two, with characters, gesture lines. A lot of characters, when you're drawing a character, I mean, in fact, that's what I love about Miss Fortune High, you know, the skinny guy in the middle. He's basically made of gesture lines. So, you know, a gesture line is really kind of like a line of motion that you would see coming through a character, just to kind of show, you know, how they're moving through space, how, you know, how their body weight is shifting. And it really just kind of conveys emotion, it conveys movement, and it does it just so well. That's the most important thing. Third most important thing, framing. Framing, which is super important for comics. This is why I switched to a more of a storyboarding format, because how you frame what you're going to show is super important. Like, what is the most important thing in the image? Are we all talking about like one common thing? Like, I got a book yesterday where there's like an arrowhead. Am I going to show this arrowhead, you know, that we're all talking about in like the center of the shot? Is it like a haphazard thing we don't care about? You know, understanding framing to the most maximum effect is probably one of the most important things you need to know about making art comics.
I think we have time for one more question, before.
Okay.
Already.
The grip of the boys club on the culture, particularly in comics, is really loosening. I mean, we're seeing a time where San Diego this year had a record attendance of women, which is fantastic.
Oh my God! Because I counted women in Artist Alley like a year ago, and I think
They're following our example.
Did I come and tell you that I counted like 2 females in Artist Alley like a couple years ago in San Diego? That's great to hear, though.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sorry, I didn't
Is that why the whole floor was kind of more chill? Yeah. Because there was like a more chill vibe in San Diego. It might be because, you know, women just
the
kind of...
mellowest con I've seen in 12 years.
Really? Yeah. It wasn't just me.
They're reporting a record attendance, and obviously it's becoming more and more, I guess you could say, socially acceptable for women to be in culture. It's more of a thing, like, it's that they do.
See, it's always been acceptable in our culture.
My question is, because that boys club group is loosening, but you still have the stragglers that are like, for every woman that speaks up and says, this is for me, there's 2 men that say, no, it's not, get out, this is not for you. What's your response to that?
I speak twice as loud.
Right? It's BS, dude, because... Yeah, there was a record attendance, but there was also the huge backlash of, oh, you're just dressing this way because you want attention. And there, like, the past several months, there's been all sorts of video responses like I'm a geek girl. I don't know if anyone saw that, where it was I think they got a bunch of people from the con to say girls can be geeks too, and I was a geek way before con probably even existed in my world. So I think it's a load of crap, and I still find it super difficult to have first people talk to me. If I'm sitting next to a guy at a booth, they'll talk to the guy first, then to me. So I just, yeah, talk is loud, but also sometimes I go, well, that's probably someone I don't want to talk with. Because having to defend any nerdness, geekness, anything you want to call it in my life is BS.
Yeah, that's
because I've known about Star Wars.
I want to say too that out of all the artists, male friends that I have and know or associate with, including Lonnie, they have always been very encouraging. They never said, "Oh, you're just a girl, get out of here, you can't do this." In fact, for me, it was the opposite, and they are the reason why I am making comics now, because of these boys.
Yeah, I mean,
that
because of these elegant gentlemen.
Anytime, like, people feel threatened, there's this, like, wanting to, like, put you in your place sort of thing, and that can come from anyone, male or female. But the way that I kind of see it is, like, you could say that this isn't for me all you want, I'm going to keep doing it. And that's something that, you know, like, I can even take from male artists who are like, this is genius. And it's like, no, it's not. It's really not. But it's great that you can speak about it with so much confidence. And that's something that I know that I can try and take from any of those situations. It's like, well, I'm going to try and be more confident about the thing that I do and make it the best that it can be. That way, it's like, it doesn't matter if there's two people that are like trying to put me down for it. There's going to be a lot more people that are going to be looking at it and claiming that it's good. And that validation means a lot, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. To be continued. We're proud. This is like our second annual Latina Power panel. We definitely want to keep this conversation going. We definitely want to apoyar, you know, our Latino artists, our Latina artists.
Plenty of these on sale.
Exactly. Please support these artists out in our expo. They've got great tables. They got great products. Thank you for supporting the Latino Comics Expo. Thank you for supporting the Mola. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my partner, my co-supporter, the co-funder of this expo, my wife Rosaline Padilla. Once again, Ms. Alejandra Cisneros. Ms. Jules Rivera. Graciela Rodriguez. And Ms. Liz Mayorga. Like us on Facebook, check us out on .com, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the expo. Gracias. Thank you, honey. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. It's nice to see you.
You know my friend Roman Montes de Oca?
I just happened to come along to the show. He just landed on my lap and I was here. It wasn't originally planned. So she told me, I haven't been doing those. I haven't done it yet. But everybody's been telling me, go over there because you'll make money. It costs a lot, but you'll make a million. So, but definitely art. Yeah, same as up to it. But I'm looking forward to doing this here.
Expo, thank you. Guys, come in here, sit here.
Okay. It's not out. It's not
Thank you, Expo. I got it. Got it right now. Hi, welcome to the Expo. Just over here.
Hey!
Cousin Ted, what's up, man?
Cousin Ted, how are you?
Hey, if you sign up for my mailing list, you get a free pin for the podcast. Yeah, I'll just. Which one? Oh, those are originals too. Guernica's that's the shit, dude. You'll be notified every time a new show comes out, and that's it. You know, I'm not gonna like spam you or like, you know.
Okay.
It's all just about my podcast where I talk and interview artists, friends of mine, famous cartoonists, animators, and it's all about comics, animation, frustrations of being an artist, and you know what to do to inspire yourself, and just kind of giving you the courage to do your thing. You know, I push people, but in a fun way though, totally fun. So it's something to listen to while you're working, you know, on your thing. What kind of art do you do?
I do sketches similar to this because I'm a fashion student, and this is really cool. This is more of like what I do.
Oh yeah, sketch painting. Yeah. I like sketching with color.
Yeah.
Watercolor is my favorite. It's so hard to do though. One mistake and you ruined it.
This is the first picture I saw that's similar to what I do.
Well, then we're on the same plane then. I love doing that stuff. It's loose and expressive, and it's not rigid and formula or what do you call it, technique. It's more about just freedom and playing with the forms.